I'd like to know when did King Charles forgive Todge if he's kept his Councillor of State active since before Netflix and Spare was even publicly launched and was initiated straight after the funeral of the Queen. That's what I'd like to know. Apologies for the misspelling of councillor. It's with an S, not a C, in the middle there. But yeah, apologies. Councillor of State, active for 2 years. Ongoing. Current. Which is legal, isn't it? Wink. So you usually speaking, well, not usually speaking by law, a councillor of state cannot be appointed if they don't live in the UK. So they either have a doppelganger living in America and parading around as Todge, plausible, possible, or, and as well, that could also keep the real Todge safe in the UK. I know that sounds crazy, but anything's possible. So anyway, Todge is meant to be living in the UK, residing in UK to be a councillor of state by law. If he isn't, he would be disqualified. But he isn't. He isn't disqualified. So, remain councillor of state. As the bill changes were finalised on the 1st of December 2022, they were initially, the changes of the bill were offered by King Charles to Parliament on the 14th of November 2022, so very, very shortly after the Queen passed. And that was, if you recall in Spare, the end-all, break-all moment with Todge and his family. His brother didn't acknowledge him. It was heartbreaking. And his wife wasn't invited to say goodbye to a woman she never really knew. But didn't she go to the funeral? Yeah, anyway, it was all about heartbreak, it was all terrible, terrible stuff. And then, Todge went back to his life and he found freedom and found happiness and joy and drugs and more things. And you can, this is just not real. This is not real life. It's not real life. Anyway, all that stuff happened where he wasn't speaking to his family. And yet here, King Charles is supposedly forgiving Todge so he can come back into the fold and relocate to the UK. Which, if the real Todge is living there already, well, there's no need. It'd just be the real Todge coming back. But it could be that there's just one Todge. It could be in America, and he could be returning. Either way, he shouldn't be Councillor of State. And this is just strategy. This is just, there's nothing to forgive because he's already forgiven them. He's continued to have his son with titles. He's continued to have his fake grandchildren titles. He's continued to have a fake duchess with titles. yeah, just before Netflix, no changes. Netflix was launched on December the 8th, and it was December the 1st that the Council of State was finalised.
It's really hard to look back on it now and go, what on earth happened?
You hear that? That is the sound of hearts breaking all around the world.
She's becoming a royal rock star.
And then everything changed.
Her
There's a hierarchy of the
face.
family. You know, there's leaking, but there's also planting of
Terrible
stories.
acting.
There was a war against
Terrible.
Meghan to suit other people's agendas.
It's about hatred. It's about race.
It's a dirty game. The pain and suffering
Dirty
of women
game.
marrying into this institution,
Oh,
this
Lord.
feeding frenzy.
You are Council of State.
I realized they're never going to protect you.
I was terrified. I didn't want history to repeat itself.
Yeah.
No one knows the full truth. We know the full truth.
Yeah, righto. So he goes to Colombia because he's terrified. Terrified of paparazzi. Terrified of being followed, killed. Terrified for his children. Terrified for his wife. Children that never go anywhere with them because they don't exist. And yet, this whole time before he launched that fucking absolute fraudulent piece of shit, which obviously was approved by the palace. How could it have gone out? He was Councillor of State. He became Councillor of State after the Oprah interview. After all of this, after dreaming of his dad being dead in spare, it's just wonderful stuff. Somehow not disqualified. So if I look in here, oh yeah, that's all right. I can figure this out. This is the actual law. Oh no. Give me a second here. Oh yeah, that was it. This is my initial post in 2023 about the Council of State situation, about it being illegal to have him not living in the UK and being appointed Councillor of State, despite whatever terms and conditions you want to put in there. Not legal. Here we go. This is the Regency Act currently in place. In 2 sections, Harry is disqualified as he is A. no longer domiciled in the UK as he does not live in any part of the UK. Wink. B. disqualified from being a Councillor of State as he is disqualified from being a regent. Right. And yet he can commit treason and change Commonwealth government's policies. Never disqualified, still current. So I will go back to that. This is a link to the bill. I will put a link to this post on the video underneath on the pinned comment. Yes, Spare happened, Netflix happened. We're parading false lines of succession around. And the Queen's funeral happened where Nut wasn't allowed to fly over to say goodbye to the Queen. Todge was heartbroken. But only a month later, November 14th, the King changed law for Todge. This is one of the summary of the bill. As part of the link, you will see that in response to a message, obviously the Parliament is speaking, in response to a message from His Majesty King Charles III on November 14th, 2022. The bill was introduced in the House of Lords the day after. All it took was a day. Not much deliberating there, is it? Oh, it's been fast-tracked. Why? Crazy, huh? This is the current page of Councils of State on the royal.uk website. In the event that the King cannot undertake his official duties as sovereign, that's interesting given the current situation of the King, as sovereign on a temporary basis due to illness or absence abroad. 2 or more councillors of state are appointed by letters patent to act in His Majesty's place. Current councillors of state: Queen, the Prince of Wales, the Princess Royal, the Queen. I can't believe they're calling her the Queen. That's mental as well. That's another, just like, what's going on? The Queen Consort, you mean? Prince of Wales, the Princess Royal, the Duke of Edinburgh, and the Duke of Sussex. And the Duke of York and Princess Beatrice, in practice only working members of the royal family, are called upon to act as councillors of state. But isn't Todd returning back? Because he's all forgiven just in time? Yeah, so in his book, I mean, you've seen these interviews, like, you know the anger you felt watching these interviews, the disrespect, the abuse, the gaslighting. Was it real? Was any of this real? And there's a link that's attached to it of Councils of State. So yeah, all is forgiven. We should forgive too, because nothing actually happened.